Welcome to episode number 2 of the Social Business Engine digital TV show. I'm your host, Bernie Borges. On the Social Business Engine digital TV show, I bring you interviews with professionals from brands around the world who are willing to share their social business journey with you. A social business is one who embraces the culture and technology of the social revolution. A social business intentionally engages externally as well as internally using social technologies. And a social business embraces employees as brand ambassadors and relevant content as the currency to building trust, relationships, and desirable business outcomes. On each episode of the Social Business Engine, I'm joined by a co-host who represents a product or service that contributes to the social business ecosystem. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined again on this episode by Wayne St. Amand of Crimson Hexagon. Welcome, Wayne.
Thanks so much, Bernie. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be a host. As Bernie mentioned, I'm with a vendor. I'm Executive Vice President of Marketing at Crimson Hexagon. Crimson Hexagon makes a platform for the deep analysis of social media. And certainly, the analysis of social media is an important part of fully optimized social businesses. So we're glad to be playing a role today.
Terrific. Thank you, Wayne. Well, I'm super excited to bring our very first international guest on the Social Business Engine. I say international because we're based here in the U.S. Today, we are joined by David Graham and Jonathan Houston of Deloitte, South Africa. David, Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with you, Bernie.
Great. Well, David, Jonathan, why don't you begin with a brief introduction of your roles, and just for those that may not be familiar with Deloitte, why don't you just give us a brief introduction?
Right. My name's David Graham. I'm the digital engagement leader for Deloitte Africa. My primary responsibility is to interact and engage with business decision makers on the one side, and the other to work with Deloitte thought leaders, helping them to enhance their online presence, help them develop content, and communicate this to their target markets. And in so doing, try and encourage offline engagement. That's the one piece. The second piece is that I also work in terms of change management, getting our employees internally to embrace social media.
And Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Houston. I am a lead in our technology consulting division, a digital marketing lead. I'm responsible for lifting the eminence of our technology business and ensuring that our go-to-market solutions and strategies are aligned with what the business needs.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. Well, before we get started, I just want to call attention to anyone who is watching or listening out there in digital land. You can follow along the conversation with the hashtag SBE Show, and that would be available on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Well, David, Jonathan, you know that I've identified 5 characteristics of a social business. And I also realized that each social business is on a journey. So let's start by reviewing how you describe Deloitte South Africa as a social business.
Sure. So our journey of social business is not quite fully matured yet. We're still on the journey and we're progressing along the way. But I'd say that we're an advanced age of being a teenager at this point. We have a lot of the basics in place and we are quite mature in some aspects, but we're not holistically there yet. We're making great strides in getting towards those places by using things such as social media marketing for awareness, as well as using social media internally to drive the business for collaboration and knowledge sharing.
One of those characteristics, as you know, is executive support. Can you comment on the level of executive support that you have at Deloitte South Africa for social business?
Yes, so social business is supported and mandated within Deloitte right from the top. So our global leader, John Kerr, supports this all the way throughout down to our directors at regional level. In addition to this, all our directors are actually measured on the amount of content that they actually produce, which obviously is used for social business, and they also encouraged to get involved in the conversations around this content. If you look at Deloitte Australia, their social media is actually distilled into 3 words: empower and trust.
Outstanding. You know, Wayne, I find it interesting that that people are actually measured by producing content. Would you say that that's more enterprise-wide marketing or employee branding?
So I think, Bernie, actually, it's probably healthy doses of both. You know, we can see in our client base, which is mostly large consumer-facing organizations, that the marketing group plays a really valuable and critical role across the company in dealing with social and imbuing social and the data of social back through the business. But every company is different. And actually, I have a question for David or Jonathan, which is obviously at the point in the journey that you're on now, you have full executive buy-in. When you started, what was that like? And how, was it incremental progress, or did you start out with buy-in right from the start? And if not, how did you get that buy-in? What were some of the steps that you took?
I think from the start there wasn't 100% buy-in. A lot of the directorship is not seen as digital natives; they're digital immigrants or digital migrants. So they weren't so comfortable with how the dynamics of social business work. And through some change management journeys and initiatives rather, and some change management, we educated them more as to how social business works, how sharing and collaboration add to their daily lives as opposed to take time out of it and detract from doing their day-to-day jobs. Showing successes and wins within social business has also been a vital part of educating them in how it helps as opposed to hinders.
I mean, you've also got to look at the culture of our organization globally. You know, we from a Deloitte is from an audit kind of background, and we're highly risk averse. I mean, we came from a situation where we didn't even have photographs or images of individuals on our website. So we came from that to a point where we had to really expose ourselves to the market in a big way. So it has been incremental.
You know, that brings up an interesting question, and that is the role of legal or compliance. You know, given that Deloitte is, first of all, a global organization, you guys represent a region of the world in South Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong, there's 4,000 professionals in Deloitte, South Africa. Is that correct in round numbers?
Just short of, yeah.
Okay. So has there been any kind of a legal aspect that you guys have had to get your arms around in social business?
So the good thing is we actually have a legal team. So they obviously helped a lot in terms of actually developing our social media policy, letting us know what we can do, what we can't do. And, we obviously follow that religiously.
The professionals that work at Deloitte, South Africa, are largely in consulting roles of some sort. Have you ever had any kind of, I'll call it resistance, that where they might say, well, look, I'm not in marketing, I'm a whatever, I'm an ERP consultant or whatever. Have you ever had any kind of resistance from them?
Well, we have, and I think we still do have, and I think every single organization out there will have these pockets of resistance. So we focus on the people that actually do embrace it. We obviously take note of the successes, and we share that with the business. And obviously, we hopefully grow incrementally like that throughout the business.
And I'm curious, how are you defining and measuring success? You've referenced successes and sort of taking note of those. How do you pull those out, and how do you shed light on them and celebrate them within the organization?
So I'll just talk about one thing. Maybe Jonathan will want to add. But we sell people, so we sell our people. So if we use through social media, get a meeting set up for us, that is a success, and we'll make sure that people get to hear about that.
Absolutely. And we look at it from an internal point of view as well. It's not just the external side of it. It's how well are we connecting with our global firm through the platforms that we've created, and how are those platforms enabling the collaboration and success within Deloitte on a global level. We are a global firm, even though we operate just in our own geography, we're still linked to the global firm. And without having these social business enablers around us, it becomes very difficult and cumbersome to deal with global organizations. So from that respect, we definitely make a lot of noise around the fact that we're winning and doing business on a global level.
You know, Jonathan, I'm glad you brought that point up. I wanted to actually go there a little bit. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you are global, has there been increased or improved collaboration that you can point to, social playing a role in your social business strategy, playing a role in increased collaboration or morale, or maybe, you know, projects being more successful, whatever those successes look like from an internal standpoint? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So through social enterprise software and through in our social networks, we have opened up those networks. And whenever we go into a project, when we're looking at the qualifications that we have around those projects, it starts on a global level, or rather it ends up on a global level, where we are examining where we have the deepest pockets of experience that we can leverage off of. And social and being a social business has really allowed us to accentuate that leverage as much as possible.
Well, one of the other characteristics is the use of social technology, and there's all kinds of technology that are available, and of course Wayne represents one very fine technology company in the social business world. Can you tell us a little bit about how Deloitte South Africa embraces social technologies in your social business journey?
Sure. So we use an enterprise social network within Deloitte called Yammer. We also use Microsoft Link, and we have intranets and portals, all of which are geared around sharing and collaboration, knowledge sharing really. And through those, they really bring the world to us and allow us to unlock everything that's there. So without those technologies in place and the integration of those technologies together, without that, we really would be nowhere near as far along on this journey as we are. Those technologies, while they aren't necessarily what social business is all about, it's not about the technology, it's about unlocking social principles and understanding how they can deliver value. The technology are really just the enablers of that, but they're a key part in helping us to unlock that value.
So it sounds like in discussing technology, one of the key things that you're looking for as part of a social business is using some of these social platforms primarily for collaboration and sharing. Are there other kinds of technologies that you're using to measure perhaps the conversation about Deloitte, either locally in your region or on a global basis, just to understand perceptions around the company, the brand, or your space at large? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of things that Deloitte does to understand where our brand is in the hearts and minds of our audience. So we do use online reputation management software. It differs per region as to which one we use. There isn't a global standard on it. But then we're also using offline mechanisms to understand how we're performing in the media. And we use analyst relationships to understand how and where we're positioned within our clients' hearts and minds. And it's those three combined that really allow us to get a view of what the perceptions are, not only around our brand, but around the markets that we're operating in. One of the areas where we are striving to do a lot more is around understanding the data for marketing purposes, where we're analyzing those conversations a lot more, tapping into the content which we're pushing out, around the content strategies that we're using, and really understanding not only the sentiments, but also the implications behind those sentiments as to how we can deliver better value, and then using the social network underneath us, uplift all of that into a better Deloitte.
Well, certainly sentiment analysis is near and dear to my heart, given what my company is involved in. What we often find in talking with clients is that in analyzing sentiment, in understanding consumer opinion, that typically falls to the marketing group. And often the marketing group has difficulty putting that data, putting that knowledge and that information to good use across the business, which is certainly one of the tenets, the principles of being a true, full and complete social business, is how do you leverage that data all across the organization? Just curious as to your perspectives on that.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention that obviously because we're marketing ourselves to a smaller, more finite market. I mean, we know exactly which companies we want to do business with and who within those companies. We'll go out and actually conduct a client service assessment, and we've had very good feedback from these client service assessments in terms of the interaction that has taken place between ourselves and our clients through social technologies, through social networks.
I think it goes deeper than that as well, to a degree. It's the second point in Bernie's characteristics, which is marketing is not a department. While we do have a marketing department, and it still functions on its own as a marketing department, we have representatives from that marketing department within each sector of the business to truly understand and live and breathe how that portion of the business needs to operate. And only by doing that is the link to marketing really made that much stronger. So the insights that they do deliver, they take directly to business, which then enables them to make a better, quicker, faster decision.
And Jonathan, to that point, do you actually present data in terms of findings or trends and observations to stakeholders and make specific recommendations based on the data that you've observed?
This is, as I alluded to earlier, this is the sector rather that we are the most junior in. We are making great strides in becoming a lot better at doing this, but it's really the area that we're trying to grapple with the most. The integration of systems and then pulling external data and internal data together to have a holistic view or dashboard, to use the term which has been overused, to really get better at delivering those insights is what we're grappling is probably the wrong word, but that's what we're working on at the moment as we continue down this journey.
So we've focused more on identifying very specific, high-quality interaction that's taken place with specific prospects and clients rather than maybe looking at trends across like thousands of interactions or whatever.
Yeah, and we do have pockets of that information. So through the email newsletters that we send and email marketing that we do, we've got trends and analysis we can pull from that. From our social media accounts, we've got trends and analysis we can pull from that. And there's various other pockets of information. It's now pulling those pockets of information together to truly get a full view is the journey that we're on at the moment.
Okay. Well, Wayne, we've got about a minute left in this interview before we transition to the next segment of this episode. And the question that's on my mind is, do you have any advice, David or Jonathan, that you could share with our viewers or listeners that perhaps don't work for a global brand like Deloitte? Maybe they work for a smaller company that doesn't have 4,000 employees. Maybe it's national, maybe it's regional. Given that you're on this social business journey, you've experienced some successes. As you mentioned, there are still aspects of it that you're still working on. You mentioned that you think you're still kind of a teenager. I appreciate your authentic honesty in that. Any advice that you'd like to give to smaller businesses on their social business journey?
So the one thing I'd suggest, first of all, before you do anything, is actually go and listen to what the experts are doing and have done. And for example, 4 years ago when I started on my journey, I read a book written by Bernie Borges called Marketing 2.0, and that's where it started. I spent a bit of time speaking to other people out there that actually started the journey earlier. But the other advice I'd give, and I'd actually heard this at a social media conference this week, is don't spend too much time on strategy. Try and operationalize as quick as possible and then measure as you go. See what works, do more of that, see what doesn't work, and stop doing that.
Yeah, I'd echo exactly that. And the only thing I'd really add to it is celebrate the wins and don't get too despondent if things don't take off as quickly as you want them to. It is a long journey. It's not a short-term journey.
I think the one thing I'd also advise, and I'm sure you'd agree with me here, is that sometimes when you think you're not having an effect, you're having a profound impact on the market. And it sometimes takes a while before you actually feel it, before that feedback loop comes back to you.
Well, Wayne, it almost sounds like agile development to me when David and Jonathan refer to celebrate the wins, figure it out, as you go, what works, what doesn't work. It almost sounds a little bit like Agile. Doesn't that sound like Agile to you?
It does. It does. I think it's better to be out there and trying and testing and learning from lots of small failures and building upon that, iterating constantly towards success, than it is to mull over strategy without taking action. There's no question that's good advice for anyone.
I agree. That's great advice for companies of any size in any industry. Well, that's terrific. Well, David and Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today on the Social Business Engine and sharing where you are on your journey and your honesty and your candor and your humility. It's very, very helpful, I'm sure, to anybody that's watching or listening. So before we wrap up the show, it is time for the SBP. Wayne, the SBP is all about you. Now, you know what the SBP is, don't you?
Actually, Bernie, I don't. Could you help me out with that a little bit?
Oh, okay. Well, the SBP is the Social Business Promo. And as my co-host and our lead sponsor on this episode, it's your opportunity to promote something exciting that's going on at Crimson Hexagon.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, Bernie. And it kind of in the spirit of the Social Business Engine, we want to make an ebook available to viewers that is educationally oriented. Clearly, we're a vendor in this space and we provide, we believe, a valuable solution for the deep analysis of social media, but we don't want this to be about us. We want this to be about an opportunity to learn. So we're going to be making an ebook available via this URL. It's crimsonhexagon.com/SBE show. Again, crimsonhexagon.com/SBE show. And that ebook is going to be about the critical first steps that you need to make when performing a rebranding campaign. And what we've done is we've actually used our platform to analyze a variety of very large, very well-known global brands in their rebranding efforts to get a sense of what people in social media, how they've reacted to those rebranding efforts, and sort of reverse engineered the process to figure out what are the critical steps from the consumer's point of view when you undergo a rebranding effort. Again, this is something that many marketers struggle with, and we think that this ebook does a pretty good job of covering these critical steps that can help marketers perform a successful rebranding effort. So go to that URL and download it, and certainly let us know if you have questions.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Wayne, for sharing that. Once again, that's crimsonhexagon.com/SBE show, where you can download that educational ebook provided by Wayne's company, Crimson Hexagon. Well, again, I want to thank my guests today, David, Graham, and Jonathan Halston from Deloitte, South Africa, sharing their social business journey with us today. Wayne, thank you so much for co-hosting and sponsoring this episode of the Social Business Engine. That is a wrap for this episode. I invite you to watch us online on YouTube at thesocialbusinessengine.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio. If you're listening to this while you're working out or something, I invite you to watch the video as well. Share it with all of your colleagues who might have an interest in getting insights and inspiration on their social business journey. This is Bernie Borges signing out for now. See you next time.